So Jacqueline Cavalcante, uh, she's fighting Julia Avila tomorrow night. You saw I put in a thumbnail that I'm obviously picking her to win, but I wrote that she has to go for it. What I mean by go for it is go for a stoppage. Jacqueline Cavalcante needs to go for a stoppage. She doesn't have to get a stoppage, but if you ask me, she has to look like she's trying to get a stoppage. So she has to go for a stoppage. She can't get around that. Now, what I mean is she needs to be more dominant or else she's going to start losing fights. These split decisions that she's winning, they won't continue. That's what it is. You can't win split decisions forever. She has to change. She has to change. And I'm saying that, I'm fully confident saying that, especially seeing that she's one in the UFC, two, in her prime as far as her age, and three, she's in the best possible shape to go for it. Now, I'm saying that she needs to crank up her aggression. That's all I'm saying. She needs more output. Bantamweight needs talent. Bantamweight needs fighters that can bring attention to the division, who can create interest when they're announced as a contender for the belt. Julia Avila is not that fighter. Her mind is not even into fighting anymore. Y'all remember, I said that. I talked about that already. When Julia got pregnant and was out forever, it was over. You can't really commit to MMA, especially when you're that low in the rankings. So I view Julia as a part-time fighter. She fights part-time, but she's a full-time worker, wife, and mother. I just don't believe that works. It does not work. You're doing way too much, dividing your attention in too many directions. Whereas Cavalcante, how old is she? We're going to go back to Yan Xiaonan here in a minute too, because I just saw something about her that I didn't like. She's 27, Cavalcante. So it's now or never. It's do or die for her. You have to crank up your aggression, your output, your intensity, or you're going to start losing fights. That's just what it is. Now, when you scroll, check out our record, one thing you notice is that a lecture like this is appropriate at a time like now. She's really just getting started in MMA. She's being fast-tracked. I know a lot of people overlook that. We expect her to perform much better than she currently is. That might seem unfair, looking at how new she is. You know, you might hear me and other content creators saying, you know, being critical of Cavalcante. And it might sound unfair. But again, we're only critical because we see her potential. These split decisions, I believe, only happened because of Cavalcante. It was her fault. I blame her for all four of these decisions. I blame how reluctant she is, how she waits, sits there throwing feint after feint after feint, not believing in her skill. Like I said, you can cut your own throat when you don't believe in yourself. And how much you believe in your skill set should be realistic. You know, it should be realistic. You shouldn't be out here trying to throw bombs and slug it out with a big hitter if you never get knockouts. You know, play your role. Don't overestimate your skill set. Some fighters do that. Jacqueline, to me, is that type of fighter. I don't know if she don't respect her skill set as much as she should. That has to be a part of it. She just don't believe in it like that. So she holds on to a bunch of shots that she should not be holding on to. Why? Because she's in very good shape. Like I said, the best shape of her career. And she's in the UFC. You're going to need to be the best version of yourself. Simple as that. You're not going to be the best version of yourself throwing feints for 4 minutes and 50 seconds. Now, some of y'all might remember, you'll see this loss right here on her record. It was a split decision loss. And what we have been predicting, a lot of us who are critical of Jacqueline, we predicted this is going to start happening again. Because if you watch this fight, she actually won this fight. She won rounds 1 and 3. And it seemed like most people who watched the fight have the same scorecard. They gave her round 1 and round 3. In round 2, she got hurt. Cavalcante in this fight, it was a PFL fight, got hurt in round 2. But even if you count that 10-8, that should have been a draw. Because I don't see how you could give round 1 and 3 to her opponent. That said, it was a close fight. And it was Cavalcante's fault that it was that close. But there's a difference. In that fight in the PFL was at 155. Do y'all remember how she looked in that fight? Look at her. She basically fought in her out of shape. She looked heavier than 155, to be honest. Go back, watch that fight. It's on YouTube. It's on PFL's channel. She was way too big. And I mean just big, fat. She basically fattened up to 155. Put it like that. Look at her now. She is a physical specimen. Compare her now to how she looked then. And she's still young, still 27. It's not like she went down to this low weight in her later years. So it's not going to affect her. It's going to benefit her to be at her lowest weight at age 27 on the largest U.S. MMA platform in the world. It's now or never for Cavalcante. I mean, looking at her physique, she could be a competitor, like a, right? George Page. If you ask me, she got the proportions to compete. That's how well put together physically she is. Real good muscle bellies, real good separation in her muscles, real good sweeps, good round, thick quadriceps. See how her waist gets real narrow here and balloons out, exaggerating. She got good joints, small joints. An absolute physical specimen. So there's no excuse for not throwing higher volume. Now, Jacqueline, I've listened to you talk. I know you can speak English. I know you can speak English. I look at your social media. I like the way you look. I like the appearance of hard work. I especially admire people who have made a lot of improvements. So I know she can speak some English. She was using English talking to John Jones. So I want you to hear this video. You need to hear something like this. When I see you, Jacqueline, when I watch you in that cage, throwing feint after feint, even though your shots are 3 times faster than your opponent's, I feel like hopping in that cage and slapping you across the spine. You need a coach who's going to chew you out. As soon as you get back to the corner, you need a coach who's going to be like, what are you doing? You trying to fall asleep out there or something? You about to take a nap? You're in a fight, ma'am. Now ain't the time to take a nap. Now ain't the time to reach for the bowl of popcorn. Jacqueline, you be in there looking at your opponents too much. And you need to be throwing more feet in leather. That's really what it boils down to. Now, why am I being extra harsh and critical? It's because she should stop Julia. This should end in a stoppage. Julia has had 2 fights in the last 4 years, if I'm not mistaken. Just 2 little fights in the past 4 years. Did y'all listen to that interview that Julia did online here? I think she did it with MMA Junkie, I think it was, where Julia said that cutting down to 135 is a struggle for her. I didn't like hearing that. She said it's tough getting down to 135. She also said that she wants to do jiu-jitsu tournaments at 155. That is not something you want to hear from a so-called promising fighter or a prospect. Like I said, she already sounds like she does not have her mind and heart in MMA. She's not committed to working her way up through the ranks, where we all can see. We can see it on Jacqueline. She wants to move up. She believes she's one of the best. Okay, Jacqueline, many of us, we believe you're one of the best. Definitely one of the best strikers. But you have had 3 very close fights. One of them was an actual loss. All because you didn't believe in yourself. You sitting on shots. You not imposing your will on your inferior opponents. I'm sorry, but I get frustrated with fighters who don't know their own strengths. If you don't know nothing, you better know that. Because like I've explained several times, especially with Erin Blanchfield, Erin overbelieves in her skills. And that's why she is where she is today. Erin believes her jab is better than what it really is. She believes her power. She believes everything is better than it actually is. So what does that cause her to do? Erin goes out there and turns into an animal. She goes berserk, loses her whole mind when the ref says fight. Just like Erin, pump the brakes. You ain't that good where you need to be charging in, walking your opponents down, tweaking out the whole round. But you look at her opponent is having all kinds of problems. So you see, my point is, it's so important to believe, to be aware of your skill set and to fight to that level that if you overbelieve in your skill set, it still helps you. If you can overbelieve in your skill set and get better outcomes, then you know that you have to at least believe in your exact skill set. Cavalcante don't even believe. She fights like she don't even believe she's as good as she actually is. Her shots, girl, your shots are fast and accurate. Your opponents don't like dealing with them. Now, Cavalcante, I know it's hard to see this, but Cavalcante has poor head movement. And she could get clocked in this fight if you ask me. She can get clocked and Julia can stop you. She cannot afford to leave some of her game in the gym. In fact, Jacqueline needs to bring everything that's in the gym into this fight and some. You need to bring a part of yourself you haven't showed us yet. And you got to unload on Julia. Because Julia is not going to try to strike. I don't think she's going. Julia, I think at some point she's going to try to take Cavalcante down. She's going to try to take her down. But I believe that Julia is aware that she is more destructive than Cavalcante. Julia knows that. And I predict that Julia is not going to be able to take Cavalcante down. And Julia is going to realize, I have to fight her. I have to fight her. I have no choice but to fight her. She's too big, too strong. I've been out too long. It's too hard to get her down. And let me tell you, Julia, if she just unloads and goes for it, which Julia will, Julia got grit like that. You don't have to tell Julia to crank it up. If she does, she can knock Cavalcante out, in my opinion. She could very well win this fight by stoppage. So again, Cavalcante has to, it's now or never. Don't come in here having a staring contest with Julia Avila. You're going to find yourself looking up at the lights. Jacqueline Cavalcante's power is not bad either. Her power is not bad. Her kicks, not all that, but overall, she is a top level striker. Girls just don't like striking with her. But one thing a lot of people might not notice is that Cavalcante has poor head movement. She is there to be hit. In this fight, in the PFL, like I said, in the second round, she was hurt. You know what do you remember what hurt her? It was a punch. Punch to the face. So, Jacqueline, you cannot afford to sit on your shots, to sit on your offense. Because you don't even have stellar defense to protect you. You have to a significant extent, use your offense as defense to keep fighters from teeing off and bopping you upside the head. She has to make some changes now. She's moving up in the rankings. Let's take a look at the rankings. Now, Julia said that cutting to 135 is tough, but I believe that it's tough also for Cavalcante. It's tough also for Cavalcante. Now, this is the fight in PFL where she got hurt. Okay. And immediately after that fight, she got a stoppage and she got another stoppage. And think about that. In only her third professional fight, she was fighting in the PFL. Look at how fast her career is moving. Okay, so she had 2 fights, 2 stoppages. Then she fought for the title, the LFA bantamweight title against Melissa Croden. Now, I rank Croden. I suspect Croden will end up in the UFC. Real good win for Cavalcante. But Cavalcante, in all of her, she has to increase her output. After that fight against Croden, she got signed to the UFC. Again, another decision against Zara. Then a split decision. You see where this is headed? Look at the flow of her career. Look at the flow. We've seen this several times. They start out at the lower level organizations, and that's where they get the majority of their stoppages, right? This is the case with nearly all fighters. Then when they get signed to UFC, that's when they start winning by decision. And that's against unranked opponents. So the trajectory of her career is that once she starts moving up, she's going to start taking L's. That's what it's looking like. She went from getting the stoppages, being dominant in the lower organizations earlier in her career, to being signed to UFC, now getting nothing but decisions and quickly winning by split decisions, barely winning, having one of the judges say her opponent won the fight. You see where this is headed. So as soon as Cavalcante gets into the top 10 or wherever, starts fighting harder opponents, she's going to start losing. If you're not getting stoppages, girl, you're going to start taking L's. So she cannot afford to do that. Cannot afford to do it. Another thing, I believe Julia is in very bad shape. It's almost going to look bad if Cavalcante doesn't get a stoppage, in my opinion. And I don't think I'm going to be the only one pointing this out. Julia hasn't fought in forever. She's in bad shape. She's already shared with us that this was a tough weight cut for her. She is ripe and ready to be stopped. I'm talking about Julia Avila. What should happen is Julia goes in, tries to strike, gets pieced up, realizes I can't strike with this broad, goes for takedowns, and fails. This is what I strongly suspect is going to happen. Julia's going to go for takedowns, fail to get the takedowns, find herself in a striking contest, do or die, and go all out and try to stop Cavalcante. I'm saying that when Julia tries or decides to do that, she could very well do it. So Cavalcante needs to be on her A game. Do not underestimate Julia. When you're dealing with a stoppage threat, it's with the women, that is as serious as it gets. And Julia is a stoppage threat. I know Julia looked bad against Miesha Tate. That was a horrible loss, by the way. Horrible loss. Miesha Tate has been on the decline forever. This is why I'm saying that this should end in stoppage for Cavalcante, and it's going to look bad if she don't win by stoppage. That's what I'm saying, Jacqueline. If you don't stop Julia Avila, that's going to look bad. You're to the point now where you going to look bad even when you win. It's time to let go. It's time to go for it. Jacqueline, it's time to go for it. It's time to be that dominant chick. You got to pull it out of you. You got to pull that animal out of you. Look at Miesha Tate's record. Look at that. Got to dust her off. She got cobwebs covering her whole body. You got stopped. You got ragdoll, beaten up. And Miesha was on a losing streak. Look at that. And that was 2 years ago? Jacqueline, they're basically begging you to get a stoppage. I'm telling you what I know. The UFC is actually looking out for you, girl. They see your potential. They want you to shine. And you have to do it. You have to do it. Because, man, this is a really good alley-oop, if you ask me. Because Julia Avila, just like I said about Jacqueline Cavalcante, has horrible defense. Julia does not move her head. She does not protect herself well at all. She keeps her head straight up in the air. That's a recipe for disaster against Cavalcante. So as soon as Julia realizes, I can't get this chick down. She's too strong and big. I can't get her down. At that point, Julia Avila should start to be getting punished. Julia should, if Jacqueline can't stop Julia, then Jacqueline needs to punish Julia the whole fight. Punish her the whole fight. There is no reason why Julia, in my opinion, there's no reason why she should even be in this fight. I don't even think this fight should be competitive. Julia's ground game is not all that. Look at her fights. Look at her career. She has been rolled over and reversed so many times. She has a horrible base. Julia's ground skills, takedown skills, in my opinion, are poor. Poor. Jacqueline should be able to stuff these takedown attempts. And if Julia is forced to strike with Cavalcante, she should be getting pieced up. Anything less, I think, is going to make Jacqueline Cavalcante look bad. She could probably get away with a unanimous decision. But I'm telling you, them judges is getting tired of giving you unanimous decisions. She has to show them something new, something more. She has to show the judges something more. And I'm saying at this point, she got to start showing everybody some more. Dana White, McMahon, UFC, Megan O'Leary. She is a phenomenal striker. You are fighting women in the bantamweight division. I think you are in violation, Jacqueline, if you leave those skills in the gym. If those skills that you possess are not on full display inside the cage, you deserve ridicule. That's what it is. And your coaches, your whole team. Anybody allowing you to go in there with spectacular striking like you have and have performed needs to be fired. There's no way you'd be half performing under my watch. You come back to the corner, I'm going to have to tell you to chill out a little bit. But you definitely not going to be sitting there having a staring contest. So pump the brakes on the Carla Esparza versus Rose Namajunas rematch. That has to stop. Especially for Cavalcante. Now, like I said, the UFC's bantamweight division it's in shambles. It's in such bad shape. Almost depressing. And the UFC wants new talent. They want some buzz. They want buzz in that division. They want to bring the magic back to that division. The UFC bantamweight division is the division that brought respect to women. It happened, so it's a special division in a lot of the fans' mind. So people are rooting for you, Jacqueline. The UFC wants you to look good. You got to go for it. And I'm going to be able to tell. So you can already see I'm locked and loaded. I'm ready to jump all over your case if you go out there and half perform again. WMMA, the media outlet, there's not that many channels who focus on WMMA. So I know you've heard the criticism. You've heard me. You've heard Combo Breaker. You've heard others talking about this. You have to show your skill set for it to be respected. That's just what it is. Don't wait until there's 10 seconds left in the third round. No more of that. But as longtime followers know, I've always liked Julia. I like her destructive style. I'm pretty much a fan of all fighters who go for stoppages. She is a very, very tough chick. Talking about Julia Vila. She's not great at anything, but she's tough. She got a toughness that Jacqueline doesn't. And I'm saying Jacqueline needs to be careful to not be overcome by that which she doesn't possess. The best way to do that is to acquire what you don't have. And I've seen this before, seen it several times. A good way for you to acquire that, Jacqueline, is to take it from your opponent. follow her lead. Right? Unlock your aggressiveness. I want Cavalcante to do well. I'm behind her. I want her to do well because I really appreciate her striking. I think she could mix in more kicks. She's not a phenomenal kicker. Not a phenomenal kicker. She's not real good at the, assortment. She don't have that many weapons. But the jabs, the crosses, her boxing is crisp. Real good accuracy. And like I said, she's in real good shape, best shape of her life. She's in the best possible shape to do what I'm telling her to do. So we'll see what happens. I'm going to take Cavalcante. But I don't put it past Julia. She could very well stop Cavalcante. Now, if that happens, man, I'm going to be upset. Put it like that. Put it like that. Julia, I told y'all a little while ago, I'm rooting for whoever's doing well, who's ever doing better. In this fight, Cavalcante is the one that's on the win streak. She's just flat out doing better than Julia Avila. So I'm going to be disappointed if Cavalcante go in here and disappoints. Also disappointed that Macy had to pull out for injury. Always enjoy Macy's fights. She is very aggressive. Macy Chiasson is aggressive. But from the reports, it sounds like they're going to try to reschedule it. Hopefully they do that. Keep her the same opponent. Just Ketlin Vieira. I was looking forward to that fight. And reschedule it. Shout out to Ketlin Vieira if she actually did agree. And it sounds like she may have to reschedule it. Show the division some respect. Remember, this was a fight between two top 5 fighters. And, hardcore fans of WMMA, we looked at this as a title eliminator. Winner of this fight, especially if they win, dominant fashion, are in the talks for a title shot. So, shout out to them for rescheduling. Hopefully, Macy can go through with that fight injury-free. Not going to give my take, but I'm looking forward to that fight too. I looked at this fight between Julia Avila and Cavalcante, along with this fight between Macy Chiasson and Ketlin Vieira, as 2 fights that's going to help restore and bring some excitement back to the bantamweight division. I just thought they were good matchups. So yeah, we'll see what happens with that. Now the other fight that's on the card, the veteran Angela Hill. What's going on with Ketlin Vieira, by the way? Not Ketlin Vieira, Ketlin Souza. Did she just get her another throat tattoo? Is that an owl on her throat? Boy, some of these fighters, they go through changes, don't they? They go through changes. Ketlin Souza, coming off a dominant victory, right? Isn't that her most recent fight, if I'm not mistaken? And poor What's the girl's name that she just stopped? Poor girl. Jauregui? Yasmin Jauregui? That poor girl. I feel sorry for her. I feel sorry for her. She just stay getting flatlined. She stay getting stopped, don't she? Angela Hill's coming off a loss against Tabitha Ricci. So I am in Angela Hill's opponent's corner. I am rooting for Ketlin Souza. Now, that said, Ketlin Souza might be on her way to losing. That'll be matchmakers. What are y'all doing? She got past Haurigi. Y'all match her up then against Angela Hill. Now I know Hill got a lot of L's, but Hill is a gamble. There's always a chance that you lose against Angela Hill unless your name is Mackenzie Dern. Had to throw that in there. I'm going to try to troll Angela Hill into chasing that rematch. You know, there's less a chance that Souza is going to walk through Hill. She's not going to be able to knock Hill out. I don't think. So horrible matchup. Horrible for the matchmakers. Y'all had something going here with Ketlin Souza. You may still have something going here. But this should be a tough fight for Ketlin Souza. How old is she? 29 years old. Angela Hill is old as all get up. I think she's 40. Yeah, she's 40 years old. According to Angela Hill, she's still just as athletic as she was when she was young, which I don't believe. Don't really believe that, but she could be. And, you know, she was never really all that athletic anyways. Poor Haurigi. Man. The old girl, she came in with some good buzz too, man. She had a nice buzz when she came in. And just started getting slept. Just slept. She got a glass chin too, man. She got to be careful with that. In both fights, she basically got knocked out. You get knocked out by Denise Gomez and Ketlin Souza. So, yeah. Yasmin's career should be interesting. Good luck to her. I don't think that's the last time we're going to see her get knocked out. All right. Now, in other news, what's up with that throat tattoo? Girl, Lord. I don't know. I'm sorry. It just irks me. Some of these girls are pretty. They got pretty faces. Ketlin's a pretty woman. But that throat tattoo just ruined it. You're no longer pleasing to look at, girl. A throat tattoo. My goodness. But anyways, in other WMMA news, I like the new outfits. I like the colors. Julia don't look like she in good shape either, man. She looks soft. Yeah, though she don't have that definition that she used to have either. I'm thinking she in horrible shape. She gonna look like a shell of herself. But she's going to go for it. Julia is going to go for it. Cavalcante got to harness some of Julia's go for it energy. You're going to need some of that for yourself. Don't get wild. But I want to see some calculated and consistent offense. You got to put fighters like Julia in their place. You got to take respect. You got to force them to respect you. Julia's a banger. You got to go out there and put knuckles in her mouth early. Can't be playing no games with the staring contests and looking at. You got to assert yourself and be aggressive. Fight like you run things. Stop going in. And I heard some other content creator say that Cavalcante is a counter striker. He says she's not a lead striker. She's a counter striker. Y'all, if y'all don't know what counter striking is, y'all got to stop saying stuff like that. There ain't no telling how many people y'all misled saying stuff like, and I've heard this before. It's like some people don't know what a counter strike is. I don't know. It's weird. But Cavalcante is not a counter striker. She's almost exclusively a lead striker. Exclusively. In fact, she needs to counter more. Come to think of it. But yeah, these girls, they get their little extra money and the first thing they want is some more tattoos. But boy, some of y'all get carried away. Looks like Ketlin from this seat got a little carried away. She looked like she might be in them groups too. One of them cults. She's looking like a cult member. Some of them tattoos. Speaking of that, y'all have to be aware, some of these fighters are occult members. Some of these fighters practice blood rituals. They're into all kinds of stuff. Magic. They're true, through and through occult members. Many of them. One example, Kayla Harrison. Yeah, you can't hide from me, Kayla. You cannot hide from me, Kayla. Once they get a certain amount of fame and recognition, these, I don't care what you are, athlete, you're going to be required to show respect and recognition to Baphomet. You're going to have to show recognition to Baphomet somehow, some way. That's just what it is. Macy Chiasson, her too. She a suspect too. She seems like she's perfectly trying to blend and be a good representative of Baphomet. Y'all keep an eye on it. And they're real slick. These occult members are real slick. Keep an eye on Macy Chiasson. She one of the most masculine looking chicks, but she got one of the most feminine walks in WMMA. Wide hips, and she switches the most feminine switch possible. So yeah, some of these girls practice magic and try to curse their opponents before the fight. Hey, whatever will help you, right? Whatever will help you. But yeah, I believe the UFC is trying to help the bantamweight division. They're doing their best to try to bring out stars. And the best way to do that, like I said a while ago, stoppages. That's the key to the evolution of WMMA. Stoppages. No matter what. Watch all the criticisms go right away. They'll just disappear. If the women start getting nothing but stoppages, you won't ever hear any more complaints about them, ever. Even from their most harshest critics. Stoppages erase everything. It fixes everything. So Jacqueline, it's time to get you some. The UFC is trying to help you out. Julia honestly shouldn't even be in that cage. And definitely not with Cavalcante. This is the type of fight, if I were Julia's manager, would tell her to avoid. Right? tap her on the shoulder, pull her aside, and tell her this is a bad fight. Okay? Bad matchup for you. Shouldn't even be in this fight. So Jacqueline needs to deliver. You need to deliver. You are no longer bouncing all over the place. You're not out of shape anymore. Up at 155, you're in the best possible condition to tee off. And you're going to have to find opportunities to tee off on Julia Avila. I don't even think Julia's ever been stopped, right? If I'm not mistaken. So potentially, in a way, Cavalcante is still undefeated. That was a real questionable loss on her record. And like I said, she shouldn't have been fighting there anyway. Going to fatten up to 155. It was the same thing Tanisha Tennant did. And she got, Cavalcante was a lot bigger, a lot heavier, put on a lot more fat than Tanisha Tennant did. This is Julia Avila's record. Look at that. Stoppage right here. Stoppage. This was disqualification. It wasn't disqualification. Julia Avila broke her finger early in the first round. In that loss right there. Another stoppage. Stoppage. Decision, stoppage. So this is why you need to respect Julia. She closes the show. She's much better at it than Cavalcante. I want Cavalcante to throw the whole idea of outpointing Julia out the window. Don't look at that as an option. Don't fight a minute of this fight as if you're trying to win on the scorecards. Fight as if you're trying to stop her. And if you win on the scorecards, you just win on the scorecards. But we'll all give you credit for trying to stop her. We can tell when you're just trying to outpoint them. Don't do it. Don't do it. Step to her. I have to press Jacqueline on this. Step to her. There's a real big possibility that Jacqueline disappoints. The chances of her having a disappointing night is high if she has another one of those nights. Close decision, and it might not go your way. You have one more close decision here. One more close decision. And it's usually that third one, isn't it? We've seen this before. It might not go your way. Now, one more thing that I have to touch on is that pound for pound rankings and the division rankings. Pound for pound rankings. Well, actually, the division rankings in the strawweight division. Why is Yan Xiaonan now the number one contender for Weili's strap and not Verna? At this point, the UFC's discrimination is apparent, if you ask me. It's gone too far already, if you ask me. Look at Jan's record. Let's look at her record. How close is that loss? Well, it's one fight away. So this is the number one fighter for Weili's strap. And this is number 4? Well, actually, number 3. This is number 3. And this is number 1. This is the number 1 who's already been whooped by Weili. Got shut out. Wasn't even a split decision. And she's still in the front of the line to get a title shot? How? How? Verna even defeated a former title contender. Okay, are we forgetting that Lemos fought for the strap? Now, I know Andrade was a former champion, but come on, Andrade. So, big mistake right there. UFC is horrible. The politics is just too much. It's just, when you're a woman, it can really work against you. If the vast majority of men have some type of problem looking at you. I suspect this is largely due to looks. I'm sorry, that's what this is looking like to me. If this was Paige Van Zandt, you think she'd be number 3? You think if Paige had this record and was out here stopping fighters, you think she'd be number 3? Why is this girl ranked number 3? Y'all about to announce Weili Yan 2 before we get Weili against Verna? And let me tell you something. If they make the fight, if they give Verna a shot, Verna is going to have the best chance at beating Weili. Oh, yeah. And I predict that would be a difficult fight for Weili. So y'all need to check that. I don't know what UFC is up to. They're going to have to check that. Y'all got some confusion over here. What is this? And Natalia Silva, number 13, pound for pound. You got Jan. You even got Jan, look at way above Verna on the pound for pound list. Not way above. Well, still above her on the pound for pound. That is crazy. That's crazy. It don't even make no sense. Verna should be ranked above both Jan and Tatiana Suarez, be honest with you. So we getting some funny stuff here in the rankings. And I knew it would happen. I knew it would happen when you're talking about Verna. Boy, boy, boy. Harsh reality, man. Harsh reality, but it's a man's sport. It's a man's sport. And, there's really nothing you can do about it. If guys put a lot of stock in looks, hey, I don't know. Do your best. That's all I can say. Do your best. Shout out to Marquise and Lolita in the building. I'm going to land my plane there and see y'all after the fights.